get debate. We're wondering if gang warfare is out of control. The France's second city, Marseille, part one of our discussion, we saw a report, a France 24 report that went to those northern suburbs. With us to talk about it, documentary filmmaker Thierry AGUILA. He's in the Marseille suburb of La Ciotat. Here in the studio, Emmanuel of the National Union of Police Commissioners. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome to Fabrice RIZZOLI, author of, I guess you translate it as The Little Angry Dictionary of the Mafia. Also with us, Adrien Chevalier of the think tank Différent, which looks at public policy, and attorney Tony KENNEYBREW, who's been with us on many occasions, talking about what goes on in the suburbs. You yourself live in Paris's northern suburbs, but here we're putting the focus on Marseille. Marseille, a story that often gets play in the French press, as on the cover of the news weekly Marianne. Is it a lost territory of the Republic? Read that front cover. Again, this is far from the historic Old Port District. The area we're talking about are the northern neighborhoods of Marseille, really four of the arrondissements, or districts, if you will, of this city of 1.5 million. Now, recently, we got the latest statistics again, which are 11 murdered as of June, 4 in the last 3 weeks. You look at the number of murders, and well, they've gone down. But Thierry AGUILA, when I spoke with one of the reporters who compiled that report, Valérie Fayolle, she said what's striking is, yes, the murder rate is down, but it's younger and younger victims. And as you saw in that report, the weapon of choice, more and more, the Kalashnikov, there really is a sense that it's a different kind of score settling. What do you think? Is it getting a lot worse, or is this more of the same? Thierry AGUILA?
Excuse me, I was not aware of this. A question for me. Can you repeat your question, please?
Is it getting a lot worse in Marseille, or is it just more of the same?
For me, I don't have the feeling that things are getting worse in Marseille. I have the feeling that there is much more medias and news about Marseille, but things are like they used to be in Marseille. That's my feeling. All right, I don't have the feeling that it's getting worse.
That's a feeling that, by the way, is shared on Twitter by Anglo Marseille. He says, so many amazing things happening in this city this year, and yet you focus on the same old issues which affect a fraction of the population. He says the media sensationalism doesn't help the problem. Is it media sensationalism, Emmanuel, that we're seeing? Or is there a real problem here that's getting worse?
There is a problem, but this situation is getting worse for criminals mostly, because the pressure of the police forces is getting stronger and stronger. And the new thing is the integrated way of action of the let's say public forces, which is not only police but also customs, police, housing. The parents also are getting all together, and your report show it quite well. And with also a special action about tax paying and the income that the crime brings to the criminals. And that integrated way of working now is bringing a new situation, is make us hope for a new situation in the few months. You say it by yourself, the crime rate is getting lower and lower, especially for the highest crimes in Marseille.
Which is murder. But nonetheless, you got the impression that there is this frustrating, and you see it in the report, this frustrating game of cat and mouse.
Yes, of course, because what the report shows also is the intrication of the small business, the everyday small drug business, which is a few euros, and the major crime. All that is integrated into a scale on the same territory. And it's very hard to distinguish what works with the highest crime, the major crimes, and what comes from only the minor crimes.
Fabrice RIZZOLI, so Marseille is not out of control. This is actually the murders that have been publicized and talked about on the radio, 4 again in the last 3 weeks, execution style, most of them, that these are the sign that the drug dealers are feeling the heat.
There is a huge problem of organized crime in Marseille, but it's not a new fact, you know. So there is the small gang of dealers with a lot of violence. You've got an organized crime, the high level, Corsican mafia. And these mobsters are in Spain, and they make the hashish traffic, you know, and there is a lot of impunity for them. And for the small mobster in Marseille, there is a lot of crime and a lot of repression. The police do a good job about this mobster. But here I'm to represent the civil society, because FLAIR, Freedom, Legality and Rights in Europe, is a network of associations who give solution against organized crime, but we have to improve the civil society. And one of the measures is to give the assets who are confiscated to give to civil society. And you know, there is now a European Parliament Committee on Organized Crime, against corruption and money laundering, to make recommendation to every state member, and they say you have to take this asset who are confiscated by the police and justice, and you have to give him to civil society. You have to imagine the villa of the dealers has to be transformed in culture, you know, culture center. That you see there is a social problem in Marseille. Yeah. Okay,
but again, the heart of this is. When we saw it at the beginning with that cover saying is Marseille beyond the control of the Republic? Tony KENNEYBREW, we have a tweet here from David saying it's so sad you could substitute housing projects in New York, Philadelphia, or Chicago for this Marseille area. But you know, there is this sense that Marseille is somehow different from the rest of France, that the problem is different. Is it different?
I've heard from many people that the problem's different. As a lawyer in France, I see the same problem everywhere. The problem are many of these children do not have their fathers in the homes. The problem is, for example, the judges that aren't giving sentences that are hard enough. And this is in Paris, this is also Marseille. You can also see this in other cities like Montpellier, Bordeaux, Lyon, Brest. You can go, Lille, all over France. It's
all
over
France.
Right, it's the same situation.
So what makes Marseille different?
I think that what makes Marseille different is the sun, the type of people that are there. It's not at all like the north of France that's cloudy all the time. There are many. No, seriously, this sounds funny, but this is true. And in Marseille, you have a larger population of immigrants also, because the climate is similar to what you would find in many Northern African countries and even African countries. So that's what I think is one of the differences in Marseille. However, the problem in Marseille is that how would I say it? The problem in Marseille is the same problem that we have here in Paris. Problems with the families being dysfunctional. The problems with the police officers, actually, they know where the drugs are. Tell me the police officers know who these drug dealers are. I have a hard time believing that these police officers do not know. They see the same young youth that come out each day, each morning. They're at the same place. The police know what's going on. So there can be, I think the police is also accepting tacitly what's going on, maybe because of the unemployment situation here in France. Many of these children also come from, yes?
Wait, you say tacitly accepting it. Why would they tacitly be accepting it? We saw in the report that they were
that
on patrol there.
That made me laugh when I saw that part, because what I see in Paris is the police officers, they go by these places. It's almost as if, you know, they know what's going on. They could stop these children if they wanted to.
Emmanuel ROUX?
No, I mean, this is a totally false vision of the situation, I would say. Just a few facts and figures. Do you know what amount of euros has been seized for the first months of this year? 20 million euros have been seized. If that is in action, tell me what is action. Every day, weapons are seized, hoods are seized, drugs. 1.4 million euros seized out of drugs last week. If that is inaction, I would like to
Why
know
is it that when I
what
walk
is
through the
action.
streets, when I walk through the streets of northern France and northern Paris, I see the same drug dealers. And often when they have problems, they come to me, and I have to get them out of
Again,
trouble.
Marseille getting a lot of attention. Recently, one official from the Socialist Party called on the government to send in the army. That's what she said. Now, for his part, the Interior Minister insists there is a plan, but be patient.
I have always said that putting an end to the score settling between organized gangs fighting for control of drug trafficking in just a few months would be difficult. We have to continue the work we started several months ago with this new method, which consists of recovering neighborhoods one after the other, estate by estate.
Sheikh Ouattara on Twitter, France, which is so powerful and active in other countries, Syria, Mali, can't even keep its own cities peaceful. It's a shame. Again, we're back to the issue of what's the image and what's the reality on when it comes to Marseille. But we are talking, Adrien Chevalier, about a neighborhood where youth unemployment stands at 45%.
Yeah, exactly. But it would be important first, because with the term gangs are out of control, not to fall into sensationalism, like we were talking at the beginning. We must make a difference between the speech and the reality. The reality is that insecurity in Marseille or in Paris or in France has always existed, and has sometimes been far worse.
But France is not a country where we're used to seeing these kind of gangland executions like the one we saw last week.
Yes, but this speech on this posture on sensationalism on gangs out of control in Marseille is serving the arguments of extreme right, and is an obstacle on the social cohesion.
It was a socialist who said bring in the army. It wasn't the far right.
It's true, but it's important us as individuals to take some distance between all these arguments and focus on the difference between the reality and the speeches. Before it was the French Riviera, today it's another type of face, it's the gangs in Marseille, but we must think about the social and economical possibilities for these people.
Thierry Aguila, at one point in that report, we saw one of the young men explain how when he was young, they took him skiing, they took him horseback riding, and he has the sense that today for his children, they're not getting that kind of attention anymore. Is there attention being put on the kids in those rough northern neighborhoods of Marseille?
Yes, I think there is still social workers in the northern neighborhood of Marseille. They still work, they still do things. But one thing has changed. It's the way the police is working in the neighborhood. It's just not only in Marseille, but everywhere in France. Before the 90s, the policemen were working in a certain kind of, they were close to the population. Now they are making just repression. So there is no contact between policemen, police officers, detectives, and the population. They are separated. And there is still social workers in the neighborhood.
Whose fault is that? The fact that the police that we saw, Thierry Aguila, whose fault is that? We saw the police, for instance, in that report, they're wearing bulletproof vests when they go into that housing project. The fact that there isn't this proximity, whose fault is it?
I think the fault is it's a kind of political choice. I remember an old police officer saying to me that when we were working in the 80s in one of the cities of Marseille, they had a very close police station, and when they had a problem or something was happening in the neighborhood, they had just to go to speak with the inhabitants of the city, of the neighborhood, and they had the solution or they had indications. Now they are very out of the city. They are very out of Marseille. They are in Marseille, but they are cut from the rest of the population. So this has been a political choice in the, I think, at the end of the 90s, at the beginning of the new century. The political choice was to change the way the police is working with the population.
So the organization of the police department was changed. Emmanuel Roux, do you agree that perhaps that the way there's been a lot of restructurings, I know, of the police decided by the government over the past decades, that perhaps there could be more done so that the police are more immersed in the local community?
Peacemaking is not only a question of means, it's a question of how you use your means. And you can have a big failure with a lot of means, and you can succeed, you can have results with a few means, but better dealt with. I'd like to say, just to answer what has been just said, that in those golden years described, that situation went so badly, slowly bad, that now we pay the price. And what happens today has been built in the 10, 20 past years. So when someone like your speak, just
Thierry Aguilar,
thank you, has a little crying about those golden years, the results of today is made out of those golden years and the way that we worked maybe too nicely at the time. To answer your question, I don't think we are at war. If you bring the army, that means you are at war. Maybe the means we use look like war. We use criminal intelligence, and intelligence is the word used by soldiers, but we are not at war. It would be, I'm joking, it would be simple if we were at war. You have an enemy, you kill him. We cannot kill the drug dealers. We cannot kill those criminals. We have to arrest them and present them to the substitutes.
And let me ask you the corollary to this question, which is the police is not structured the same way as it was 20 years ago. Neither are the criminals.
That's
and
true.
Is there a bit of a romanticized image of the past? People said, oh, in the past, the mafia dons, the heads of what they call in French the milieu, the underworld, they had a code of honor, which today the youth don't have. Is that true, or is it a bit of a romanticized view of the past?
That's very true. And
it is true.
It is true. There used to be a time where the bad guys were known, they had the code of honor, and there are things they wouldn't do. They wouldn't kill policemen like this. I would say that a lot of situation now in those suburbs, in those Marseille and elsewhere, is more about psychiatry. Psychiatry.
Fabrice, do you agree?
To my mind, the old and good mafia is the myth. I mean, they killed 2 judges in France in 1970, 1980. So what is different is this sort of criminality in the suburban, in the poor suburban with gang. Maybe it's new, maybe they are...
And easy access to those weapons. We saw the Kalashnikov in that.
Maybe, yeah, you're right, the access of the weapons, but you know, the rational violence of professional criminal ever exist. I have to remember you that 30 homicide per year in Corsica, it's not news, you know, that we have to speak now to give a solution to civil society, and I repeat that in Italy, for example, the villa of the clan Mazzaferro now is the headquarters of
confiscating, you were saying, the ill-gotten gains
of the finance police. You spoke about the efficiency of police. You know, of course, if you send military, it's very expensive. So about 6 months they have to go back to home, and it's nothing efficient. So you take the assets, okay, you confiscate the asset, and you give to civil society.
Right. Marseille, as we said at the outset, and we've repeated it, always has had an underworld.
An incredible chase that leads to Marseille, France, the crossroads of Europe and Africa, the beginning of the Riviera, the world's busiest...
This is the trailer for the 1975 film The French Connection 2, starring Gene Hackman, which brings us, by the way, to our Media Buzz segment. We can say hello at this point to Nicholas Rushworth. Nicholas, how are you?
Hi, François. Hi, everybody.
The story of Marseille, it stirs passion and pride, especially among the locals.
It does indeed. Before I look at that, I'm going to turn to our France 24 Observer's website for people who want more background on what's going on with the teenage gangs. We've got this piece on the Observer's page. Marseille teens show off their gangster moves in homemade videos. So they're actually posting to YouTube, and then we can just scroll down and take a look at this video of the kind of things that they're posting to YouTube. We can just see there the pictures of the kind of feeling you get from the guys there in various parts of Marseille. Now, just to answer your question, yeah, what we're seeing, obviously, Marseille is a great world city, isn't it? Of course, it's a hub for exchanges from the north to the south, between Africa and Europe. Let me go to this man here, who we know a lot of in France. He's called Albert Londres. He is famous for being a journalist with the Prix Albert Londres, is the equivalent of Joseph Pulitzer, if you like, for the French. Now, he wrote a book, this book here, called The Gateway to the South, Marseille, Porte du Sud. And in 1927, he was saying a lot of the similar things. You know, this is the underbelly of society. He was looking at all the trade deals and the business and so on, the exchanges going on. Now, I can go to this cover here, there, showing Marseille, ma ville. At the bottom, there's a little quote there. And that quote here, if you can see it, is actually from Albert Londres. And he says, and I can give it to you, the dream of all international wrongdoers, François, is to run a bar in Marseille. So it's not just now that we're seeing this discussion. I want to go to La Provence, which is the paper,
the local newspaper.
Yeah, exactly, in Marseille. Week after week, we get these stories. This is now, you know, 2 robbers escaped the crack elite squad of the police in a part of Marseille.
One of the projects.
Yeah, exactly, and you can see this again. And this is like, I just looked at La Provence straight away, and there you see this is the kind of picture they've got used to and what we've been seeing in this discussion. Let me show you this. The cliche coming out, crime hit Marseille. This is 3 newspaper headlines in the French press. Marseille, capitale du crime, there. 1. Another one. Marseille, capitale du crime. And number 3. Marseille, capitale de la crime. De crime. So, you know, this is a whole debate about its reputation, the facts, and is there Marseille bashing going on? That's what of the debate is in France, isn't it? Is there too much Marseille bashing?
And a lot of the locals do feel that way, that it is Marseille bashing. Nicholas Rushworth, I want to thank you. The issue of how you solve the problem now, you heard one option there mentioned by Fabrice here on the panel, a look at how you can crack things. But again, we were talking a moment ago about the geographical location, the point made by Nicholas Rushworth, where Marseille is situated. It's gateway to the Mediterranean, not far from Italy, not far from Spain, where all the hashish comes from. And it makes it a daunting task as well, Emmanuel, where it is situated.
Yes, of course, it's an important matter, but I would like to say that image is a powerful liar or traitor, because you can over-focus very easily on Twitter or on YouTube or on a newspaper. I'm not sure the situation of Marseille is so peculiar in France. You can find, there's a matter of size, of course. Marseille is the second bigger city of France. So, of course, you have more crimes in Marseille than in Lozère, for example. But I'm not sure that, of course, the situation of Marseille is a crossroads. But you can find similar situations in north or west of France. You have different routes of drugs, different of crimes, and you could compare Marseille to other cities.
We're almost out of time. Thierry Aguila, do you have the feeling that things have turned the corner, that things are getting better in Marseille?
Yeah, I think things are getting not better and not worse. It's just for me, the real matter is that we have a social problem, as any place in France and in Europe, an economical problem. And in the neighborhood, they have found solutions, illegal solutions, but it's solutions for neighborhoods that are completely abandoned by the politics. And I think in this debate, we are mixing a lot of things. The image of Marseille the delinquents, the problem of the drug, the problem of laundering money, and it's a big mix, and there is not a simple solution.
All right, not a simple solution. It's good to be talking about it, though. Thierry AGUILA, I want to thank you for doing that and joining us from the Marseille suburb of La Ciotat. I want to thank the rest of our panel in this discussion. Adrien Chevalier for being with us, Emmanuel ROUX, Tony KENNEYBREW and Fabrice RIZZOLI. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here for the France 24 debate.